If you're a person, like most people, that within you, your animal soul, your soul that drives your purely physiological needs, is strong, is healthy, is raging a battle from within. It's always trying to overtake you. It's always trying to present you with its own narrative, its narrative of life, which is one of self-survival and self-gratification. And it always tries to distract you and tempt you to do things and to think things and to say things which are inappropriate, which are wrong, which are sinful. And most people always have that, as we've learned. How is it possible that you can truly master your behavior, that in your thoughts, your words, and your deed, you never fall trap to the temptations of the animal soul? You always possess full control of your behavior, and you never make a mistake, you never falter, you never sin, which that is the characteristic of the Benoni, as we discussed yesterday. And everybody can be a Benoni, and therefore should be a Benoni. Not everyone can be the tzaddik. You can't control that animal soul or eliminate it, but you can control your behavior. And the moment you don't control that behavior and you sin just for a moment, you're not the Benoni anymore. Now you're a Rasha. It means you fell short, you failed. How is it possible never to fail? Here the Alter Rebbe introduces another groundbreaking idea of the Tanya. It's not original to the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe actually presents this idea as he references to the Zohar. However, this becomes one of the most important teachings that a lot of the Tanya is based on. And that is Moyach Shalit al Halev in Hebrew, which means the unique, distinct trait of a human being is that the mind rules the heart. And that's what makes a human being different than an animal. By an animal, the mind cannot control the heart. In fact, the heart probably controls the mind. But by a human being, the mind controls the heart, which means as follows. The mind cannot control the heart, meaning how the heart will feel, what the heart will get excited by. That's impossible. The emotions cannot be forced upon you. The heart, which represents your emotional side, which represents mostly your animal soul, which is always triggering you and trying to activate all kinds of temptations and desires and lusts and attractions to things that are unhealthy and inappropriate and sinful. The mind can't control those. However, the mind can control the heart from achieving its goal. Its goal is to be able to overtake your garment, your functional side, that you should be thinking and entertaining what the heart wants and speaking of what the heart wants and doing things that the heart wants. That the mind is able to control. So controlling behavior is easier, right? Even though we're so tempted to do something, we're so tempted to cheat and to steal and to ignore someone who needs our help, and we're so tempted to not do the mitzvah or to be lazy, the mind kicks in and says, no. Even though that's your desire, you have to behave differently. Or we're so tempted to say certain words that are inappropriate, that are harmful. No, says the mind. What about our thoughts? So the Alter Rebbe says there's two kinds of thoughts. There's like the instinctual, perhaps like subconscious thought, and then there's the deliberate conscious thoughts. When the heart is getting excited by something, it really wants, it's desires, it's attracted to something, which is something that is inappropriate and not okay, and it's sinful and it's unhealthy. It'll send that message to your mind. Let's think about this. Let's plan it. Let's enjoy. Let's become stimulated by the thoughts about it. It excites us. That message that the heart sends to the mind, let's pay attention to this. You can't control that because you can't control the actual heart and its feelings. However, once that message comes to your mind, that's like an instinctual thought. Now the question is, what are the next steps? The next steps of the mind are to take that message from the heart and to start to deliberately, consciously think about that thought, about that sinful thing. That next step you can control because the mind can control the heart. So therefore, you never actually end up thinking and entertaining consciously and deliberately about this sin. It's a bit like in a modern day example, where an email comes to the inbox that you can't control. So you get a message on your screen, this new email has come. What you can control is whether you're going to open it up and read it. And if you see a subject line that you know is not okay, it's going to make you nervous, it's going to give you anxiety, it's not something you want to be reading, you have the choice not to read it. You didn't have the choice whether it can come to your inbox or not. The same thing is with the mind and the heart. You can't control whether the heart sends that mind to your message to your mind, but whether you open it up and choose to entertain it is your choice. So here is the unique teaching about the power of self-control. Not easy, but doable and possible for every human being. Which is why, interestingly, why do animals walk on all four and humans walk on 2 feet? Now, everything in the physical realm is a reflection of its spiritual state, which is its source. By an animal, by walking on all four, we see that their mind and their heart and the rest of their body are all on equal level. By a human, by walking on 2 feet, it means there's a hierarchy over here. The mind is on the top, then comes the heart, and then comes the rest of the body. Because that's the power of the mind controlling the heart and the rest of the body. An animal doesn't have that. So an animal is instinctual. If the heart wants, if it's going to bring it pleasure or survival, or it's a need that it feels that it has, it will do. There's no other organ that it has that could regulate the behavior of the animal. But the humans have that, which is why we're in a standing position. Always when we stand, which is why we stand, by the way, when we certain prayers like the prayer of the Amidah, standing in that posture should be putting us in a zone of reflecting on, appreciating, and activating our pure humanity, mind over heart all the time. This can be achieved normally in one of 2 ways. First of all, when you're presented with this inappropriate challenge of the animal soul. So normally with just regular basic human intellect and logic, you can overpower that, you can control that, you can say, this is illogical, this is not sensible, even though it may feel good and it's temptatious, however, it's not going to be healthy. That's how human intellect can always overpower the animal soul. How much more so if we bring into the calculation the idea of holiness, of godliness, of Torah and mitzvot. If you recognize that which the animal soul wants from you is not just that it's illogical and not sensible, but it's also sinful. It also creates an impurity within. It's against God. It's against the Torah. It's against your natural creation, source to your creator. Well, if you focus on those things, then for sure that'll help you control your heart. Here the Alter Rebbe quotes a verse from King Solomon, Shlomo Melech in Ecclesiastes, who says, quote, I have seen how wisdom surpasses folly, like light surpasses darkness. Now, the fact that wisdom surpasses folly seems obvious. You're presented with something sensible, something logical, and something illogical. Of course it should win. Why the need for Shlomo Melech to bring us the metaphor to explain it, just like light surpasses darkness? I mean, even without the metaphor, it seems to be obvious that wisdom will always overpower folly. So the Alter Rebbe explains it's not so much a metaphor to prove the fact. However, it's a metaphor to teach us how wisdom overpowers folly. How is that? In 2 ways. How does light overpower darkness? First of all, you don't need a lot of light to overpower and dispel the darkness in a room. Even a small amount of light already eliminates the darkness, already illuminates the room. Second of all, it's not that the light wages a battle against the darkness. It works hard to sweep away and eradicate the darkness. It's without any effort at all. It's automatic. It's natural. The moment that the light shines, the darkness slips away on its own without effort. Well, it's the same thing, says Shlomo Melech, when it comes to wisdom and folly. Wisdom represents your godly soul, the logic of the mind. The mind is an objective organ. The mind appreciates and it discerns what's right and what's wrong, what's healthy and what's unhealthy, what you should truly be pursuing, what's sensible and what's not. The heart presents to you that which is folly. Folly meaning it may feel good, it may look good, it may be attractive, but ultimately it's not okay for you. It's not healthy and it's sinful and it takes you away from your soul, from your creator. It creates all kinds of distractions and problems and challenges in your life. It's hard to appreciate that in the moment because the heart makes us so excited. But the way that the mind controls the heart is the way that light overpowers darkness. A small amount of restoring your senses, a small moment of clarity where the mind kicks in and says, hey, I know this may look real good and feel real good, but it's not okay for you. And number two, it's not through a major effort. The mind does not need to fight a battle against the heart. The mind just needs to illuminate its light of intellect, its light of logic, its light of restoring your senses. And the moment that it does that, automatically those powerful cravings of your heart will fall away, will slip away. As the Alter Rebbe quotes the teaching of the Talmud says, how is it that a person can ever sin? You only sin when you're overtaken by a spirit of folly, a ruach shtut. A sin, doing something unhealthy, physically unhealthy, spiritually unhealthy, is always illogical. But you've been overtaken, you've been clouded. The heart clouds your thinking. And through that, you can get up to all kinds of inappropriate behavior. And the role of the mind to control the heart's agenda, is to remove the fog and to bring you to a state of clarity. Which is why they say as follows: the difference between doing a mitzvah or a sin, a good deed or a bad deed, unhealthy deed, is as follows. When it comes to a sin, very often at the time of the sin, it feels really good. There's a sense of self-gratification, excitement, sensory, sensuous. It feels beautiful. Later, after you've done the sin, there's always a down. You're having regret. Why did I do that? Why did I fall trap? It wasn't good for me. It wasn't healthy for me. A mitzvah is the other way around. Very often at the time of a mitzvah, I don't feel so good or happy or excited. I had to control myself. It required a lot of discipline, a lot of work, a lot of effort. It was inconvenient. And I'm having a tough time doing it. But afterwards, the feeling of having been able to accomplish that victory always makes you feel so much better. No regrets. To the contrary, you're so proud of yourself. You're proud that you controlled yourself in the moment and you chose right over wrong and that which is healthy over that which is unhealthy for you. And that's the power that the person has to be the Benini, to have mind-controlling heart at all times. God bless you. Have an amazing day.